It's probably fair to say that I am overly dependent on caffeine. There was one summer once when I went for like about 3 weeks without banging or wanking, and thought that was pretty weird, but who really knows? I want to talk about some of the negative effects of cutting. Now, the point of this video isn't to say, look at me, look at what a tough guy I am for enduring this hardship. Because, of course, it's optional. At all times, both you and I have the option of not getting shredded, so it's always a choice. The point is more to just give people an idea of what they might expect when going through an extreme fat loss phase, and also hopefully providing some kind of useful advice on mitigating or dealing with these issues. First, going to talk about what I'm currently experiencing or have experienced in the past, and then I will move on later to some of the other things that I've heard of other people going through that I haven't experienced myself. Shit. Oh, 200 milligrams these. That's more than a fucking monster.
Whoa.
I didn't know that was legal, mate, in the UK.
Yeah. I thought it was fucking 32 per 100 mil.
Wait there, this is the yes. The zero.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
When you said rain,
Razzle.
you meant like rain, like the fucking like.
No, rain
like
as in
weather.
like fucking
like
a king's rain.
like king's rain, yeah.
We've got rain razzleberry. We've got melon mania.
Melon mania one.
Whoa, lad. Sorted for a long time, lad. Lemon HDZ. What's that about?
Helicopter drop zone.
Is it?
No.
Oh. Sour apple. We've got 12. We've got 48 cans of 0 cal, 200 milligram caffeine containing energy drinks. Shit is about to get wild, mate. Now, let's put on this shelf.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. Put that shit there. You literally manifested this shit into existence, man. Believe in yourself, man. Maybe the secret's right. Maybe we did the secret. Did we do the secret by accident?
Right up.
Maybe we did it, man. That's sick, mate. That is absolutely sick. It's probably fair to say that I am overly dependent on caffeine and fizzy drinks. I'm lumping these in together as one because personally I use them more as a means of suppressing my appetite than for the energy that caffeine gives me. My energy levels currently are perfectly manageable, and the bigger issue for me is getting to the end of the day, sticking to my calories without suffering too much hunger. Now, hot drinks like coffee and carbonated drinks like Coke Zero or Monsters obviously help to imitate that feeling of fullness and bridge the gap between meals. So depending on your appetite, you might not need to use these too much, but if you do, I would obviously suggest keeping anything caffeine containing towards the front end of the day. Personally, I intend on going cold turkey from caffeine once I'm done dieting, but for now I'm just gonna ride it out and deal with the psychological shame of being somewhat dependent on something. I'm still managing to get a good night's sleep, so it's not too much of an issue right now. Second issue, binge eating. I am averaging probably around once a week where I just completely fuck off my calories and eat whatever I want to the point where I'm actually really uncomfortably full. I'm not particularly proud of that, or I suppose any of these, but I'm here to help rather than to look cool. Now, luckily I'm still making progress, but if you do have an outrageous binge, it can obviously undo a good few days worth of progress. It's not particularly difficult to go 2,000 calories over your maintenance, and that could be 4 days progress potentially, assuming that you're cutting in a 500 cal deficit. So some things that can help with this: implement controlled refeed days where you still go over your normal cutting calories and even over maintenance, but it's within reason. Just the knowledge that you have a refeed day coming up at the end of the week will definitely help you to stick to your calories throughout the week. Now, people obviously talk about potential benefits of refeed days from a physiological perspective in terms of the effect that they can have on leptin levels and all this, but personally I'm of the view that if that is true, then the effect is probably negligible or not far off. And the main benefit of refeed days is more the psychological one. It's more that they help you stick to your calories on your normal cutting days. I should have been implementing these from the start. However, true to form, I was kind of overconfident and I didn't think I needed to, but I will from now on. Number 2 is track your binge. If you're gonna binge, fine, do it. Go ahead, mate, you have permission, on the one condition that you plug it all into MyFitnessPal as you go along. It's a small thing, but merely that act will help you realize how much of a complete fuck you're being and probably help you rein it in a bit sooner. Number 3 is start a binge with healthy shit. So let's say, for example, I'm gonna go to the cinema and watch the fucking Lion King. I already did, it was great. I know I'm at risk of eating 7 tons of pick and mix. And so before I go, what I'm gonna do is have a nice high volume meal of whole foods. So essentially I'm just gonna fill myself up so I've got less room for shit. Okay, on to the third negative effect of cutting that I am experiencing. And this is inextricably linked with the previous point actually. I am quite obsessed with food. As I go through the day, quite often I find myself thinking about when my next meal is, what my last meal was, what I'm gonna do tomorrow, how I'm gonna set things up, how many calories I've got left. And it's to the point where Mike's walking around the apartment and I'm saying, oh, I had this for my breakfast, so I've got this many calories. And I'm looking at him and I think, you know what? You don't give a shit. No one else gives a shit. No one cares what calories I've got left. Why am I talking about it? I'm just being a weird, obsessive fuck. Now, this is the point where it can obviously get a bit dangerous for people, because this is kind of the fork in the road where some people will get on a one-way path to eating disorderville. People are definitely more and less susceptible to eating disorders, body dysmorphia, all that kind of stuff that really is not uncommon with people who go through an extreme dieting phase. Often you find people who came from stuff like anorexia get into bodybuilding and tracking all the food and stuff, and it's actually, although it looks more healthy on the surface, it's just another manifestation of an eating disorder, really. For me personally, I think I'm okay. I just think I'm fine, because although I do feel weird about food right now, I can kind of observe that in a funny way and just be like, ha ha ha, I'm obsessed with food right now, ha. You know. Now there isn't much you can really do about this. I think the main thing is just to be aware of it and aware of the potential pitfall and potentially falling into the vortex of eating disorders. One thing that might help is, instead of tracking everything using MyFitnessPal and getting to the point where you literally just view foods as a fucking matrix of numbers and all the nutritional content, you could still measure things but do it in a different method. So some people use portion sizes, like they'll just measure food out in handfuls. Do you know what I mean? If I have a handful of rice every night and then I find that I'm not losing weight, I'll go down to half a handful of rice. And although you're still tracking, it's probably gonna promote obsessiveness, maybe a little less. So that's it for what I'm currently experiencing, but there are another two main common side effects of extreme fat loss that I want to mention as well. The first is low sex drive / dick not working / etc. Now, I've never experienced this to any large extent personally. There was one summer once when I went for like about 3 weeks without banging or wanking, and thought that was pretty weird, but who really knows if that was down to me being lean at the time or not. I've certainly had no problem actually, let's say, performing, not due to being lean anyway. Obviously there's been times when I've been like pissed out my head and random shit like that. That's a whole nother story. Now, there are definitely people who have had that experience, and there's certainly a couple who have made videos about it on YouTube, so I would probably encourage you to watch those. I would say that if it does get to that point where literally your dick is not working, obviously if you're a male or whoever has dicks these days, at that point I would probably just abandon the cut, because if you can no longer perform literally your sole purpose on planet Earth, then I'd just get a pizza in, because this shit's gone too far, man. Final thing I want to mention is low energy and strength loss. So I'm mentioning these together because essentially these are two sides of the same coin. It's not like you go on lower calories and then all of a sudden your muscle mass starts wasting away. Actually, more often the case is that your lower calories affect your energy levels, and then your lower energy levels affect your workouts. And so you go into the gym and try and bench what you benched the week before, and it's not that you've suddenly lost the ability to do that, it's that you're literally not carrying the energy level into that workout that enables you to. And so if then a few weeks go by and you're not hitting a weight that you were previously hitting, then you will actually lose the ability. The phrase use it or lose it is probably applicable. So personally, I've experienced this a little bit in the past. I remember when I was working at the bank and I was doing this cut, and there were some steps that I had to walk up to get to the canteen on my lunch break. Literally only about 20 steps. And I remember it being fucking difficult, man. I remember my legs just feeling heavy and it actually feeling like a genuine task. Now, I will say that as I've got older and progressively done cut and bulk cycles, each cut I seem to experience this less. Now, I don't know if that's just a case of as you accrue more muscle mass, you can cut on higher calories, because my instinct would be that if you're still aiming for the same deficit, you should still be affected the same amount, but maybe that's not a linear relationship. All you can really do to combat this is make sure you're in an appropriate deficit, implement refeed days like I mentioned earlier, try and get enough sleep, even if that means reducing your overall caffeine intake, train at the time of the day when you feel like you have most energy, and eat healthy shit. So just a few more honourable mentions so you know exactly what you've got to look forward to. You can feel cold all the time, your sleep can suffer, your exercise recovery can suffer, your immune system can suffer, so you find yourself getting sick more easily, you can experience brain fog, and you can experience bad moods. And so the whole point is, do your absolute best to manage all of the above, and then ask yourself questions like, is it really worth it? Do I really want to get shredded for Ibiza? And the choice is yours at the end of the day, because no one else really cares. See you later.
Jordy Lenny is my hero.